me if I run this. User 1, Fred. It will do what I want it to do. So I want you to have a look at this code and see what is different between what you have and what we have here.
Hey,
and again, this is...
What's different is now I have 3 different try except statements.
Oh, you have 3. Why do you have 3?
I decided to set one up for each. So basically, I set up a while true loop, and it's going to try to enter a numeric value from an input, and it's going to accept value error, and it's going to continue. And if I actually give it the correct value, it's going to do else break. So basically, it's just going to loop constantly until I actually input like a numeric value.
I see. So what you're doing is kind of different from what we wanted. So in your version, there will be no way out until the user gives you a numeric number.
Correct.
If you use that, then you will get a different answer, but still your code should work. So, for example, when you come here and you test your case...
So in my code, I sent it into the chat. If you enter Fred like 100 times, it's never going to exit that loop until I enter like an actual number.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll move to the next one, which is A increment. And then after I enter a value for that, it's going to move to A steps.
Yeah, I see what's happening here. So, what is your question?
I mean, is that okay? Because it works for me now.
Yeah, that is okay, because as long as your code is doing what you're asking it to do, it is okay. Yeah. You're just writing it in a different format, and the difference between what your code is doing and what the previous code was doing is that for us, as soon as the user inputs a non-numeric value or like a string, the code will give an error statement and will be done.
Right,
for
like
you,
that's what the goal
was, for you,
it
will stay within that loop as long as the user understands that they should give an input. Personally, I would prefer the first version because the second one has this issue that they may not realize that the code is waiting for them.
Okay.
They may not be able to export the notebook. But other than that, which is a very minor issue, you are good.
Okay, and then just one more small thing.
Sure.
I couldn't make it toward my increment. Like, I see in your code you had 0, and then you had the end, and then 1 for your, like, step and your range. I couldn't make it to where my input for my increment would change the 1. So I see how in your table, your code, it says for I in range of 0 and S1, where NS is the input of user input.
Number of steps.
Right. I couldn't make it to where it would change my steps.
Well, if you want, you can stay after the lab session, and we will have a look at your code.
All right, perfect.
So, let us begin the lab session. You should have, let me show you, the lab6 classes full narrative and the worksheet only documents, and also the lab6 files full narrative and worksheet only documents. And 2 things that I wanted to tell you. The first one is that you need to submit the worksheet only, because some of you have already faced issues when you were trying to convert the full narrative. If you want to do that, make sure that you do not have any cells in your notebook in raw format. If they are in raw format and you try to convert them, it's going to give you an error. And it's going to confuse you, and it's going to frustrate you, and you're not going to feel good. So the worksheet only has only the examples and exercises without the explanation cells, and it should be easier for you to convert that to a PDF and submit it. The other thing that I observed when I was grading the lab assignments is that you submit notebooks with my name on them. That's not cool. So in this cell that you have on top of your notebooks, we want your name, your R number, your hex code, and everything should be about you, because that's your notebook and that's your version. So I understand that you all like my name, but believe me, it's not that cool. Just remove it. So, and one more thing that I've noticed when I was looking at the quizzes, you need to click on submit when you're done with the quiz. If you don't do that, I will see a little ongoing blue circle in front of your names, and I will not be able to have access to your answers. So it will not be graded. Make sure that when you're done with your quizzes, click on submit.
Also, Farhang,
Yeah.
I like your cut, G.
So I'm seeing something in the chat box that says there was a lab that I physically could not remove your name. Then try chemically. However, you can just remove my name and have your name on there.
I think the problem is like when you put your name, like when we edit our name up there. I noticed that underneath it, there's like 3 little dots that'll appear. If you click on that, it'll open it up and show the line where your name is, and we can delete that. That's what I did on my last lab.
Okay, cool. So right now, for this lab, I've actually given you a free cell. You can just go in there and say Brandon Morris, and then go with your R number, and then your hex code. And if you run that as a markdown cell, it will be your info. So I think from now on, I'm going to just paste the empty cell so that you can fill it easier. I think they're just giving credit. Thank you very much for that. Mine showed your name, but when I went back, I could not remove it. If that is the case, you can always create another cell and do the info there, but you should be able to delete that. It was almost like it was embedded in it permanently. Yeah, I don't know. There could be some weird things happening there, but you can create a new cell and remove my
You probably
original
need to turn the cell into edit mode, and then you can edit it. If it's a markdown
for markdown
cell,
cells, you just need to double click on it
to edit it. If you don't edit it, you can't do squat with it.
Okay, so let us move forward. I want you to go ahead and open your lab6 classes underline full narrative notebook in your co-calcs. Fill your information cell on top of the notebook, and we will start working on some examples and prepare you for the exercises.
I downloaded mine as lab6 files, full narrative. It works the same. Do I need to download the actual classes one, or can I just get the files one?
So
you need classes and files. Two parts.
Let me show you from the Blackboard link. Lab.
Lab6 worksheet only. Files.
I'm going to show you the directory again, so. Institution. There we go. So, my institution. Then this is the course. Then you want to go to lesson collection, lesson 5, laboratory 5. Click on, actually no, we're in 6, sorry, my bad. Lesson 6, you will click on lab 6, and you will click on this link. It will open this directory for you, and I want you to download lab6 classes full narrative, lab6 classes worksheet only, lab6 files full narrative, and lab6 files worksheet only. These 2 files, reading file and sample original, also download them, and then the total of 6 files, upload them on your CoCalc.
Please.
Download everything
all
there.
These 6 files.
Download everything except the SRC directory. Then
Yes,
upload it to CoCalc.
you will need to download these 6 files and upload them to your CoCalc. So this week, your lab has 2 separate notebooks, one of them on classes, one of them on files. That is why you are seeing multiple notebooks. So I'm going to minimize this, and then you're going to open your lab 6 classes full narrative. That is the one that we are beginning with. And fill in your information in the top. Let us proceed with the lab.
What do you want us to put for hex in the title?
Hex code is something that we've explained, and if you look at the chat box, it has already been there. I'm gonna put it again. It's a function in Python that you will give it your R number, and it will create a specific unique code to you. And that will not change from week to week because your R number is not changing from week to week. That is just another code that I want you to add in your introduction box.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So classes and objects, Dr. Cleveland has already told you about them, and he has helped you and given you a walkthrough to do them a step by step. In the first example that we have, I first wanted to test something, and I have created this based on The Office, and I just want to know how old I am, and if you also know this TV series. So I hope that you're familiar with it. If you're not, give it a shot. This is a very good show. This is a very good comedy series. I totally recommend it. Yeah, Brandon approved it. No. So, the question is, you are asked to write a class named personnel, and you wanted to store the information of a company's employees and generate email addresses for them with the following format: first name dot last name @ DunderMifflinPaperCompany.com. So we have a list of names, first names, last names, and ages. And that is the information that you have, and you need to kind of store it in your class and then generate the email addresses. So in this example, I want to kind of touch on the importance of classes and why do we bother creating them at all. What is the benefit of using them? So, I'm going to add comments. I recommend that you keep them and just do whatever I do, but that is really your call because the comments are not influential in the outcome of the code. So, first, let's create an empty class and call it personnel. This is exactly the way that you have already seen in Dr. Cleveland's lecture. So class space the name, and the color codes kind of help you understand if you're doing the right formatting, right spacing, and everything. So this is how we create classes. You will see that it is kind of similar to functions, and you need to put a column at the end. So class space name of the class that you want to define and then column. Then Because I just want to create an empty class, and if I do that, if I just leave it like that, Python is going to give me an error. I'm going to say pass for now, and this will be to avoid getting an error. So let's say that I want to create an instance for my class personnel. I'm going to call that instance employee1 or employee underline 1 to be more clear. And then I'm going to say that this belongs to my personnel class, just like that. If I want to create another instance, that will be employee2, personal, and so on. So basically, here we are creating an instance for the personnel class. And here is another instance. Now, I want you to go ahead and see what will happen if you just say print emp underline 1 and print emp underline 2. So make sure that you are in the right cell type. You should be in code. And if you do that, you will see that you have objects that belong to the personnel class. So actually, I'm going to add this as a comment up here. They are identified as personnel objects. So we have successfully managed to create instances that belong to our personnel class. And now we can go ahead and fill those instances. For example, we can say my employee underline 1 first name is equal to Michael. And employee underline 1 last will be Scott. And my employee underline 1 age is 43. So let me add another comment here. Same thing can be done for employee 2. Now we can actually go ahead and see what will happen if we go with print emp underline 1 dot first or print emp underline 2 dot last. So the first two lines are for the first two prints that we've already talked about, and these two. So emp underline 1 dot first is Michael, as we defined. And emp underline 2 dot last is Beasley, again, as we defined. So this is one way of dealing with instances that belong to a class. But if you notice, this is there is really no benefit to this. This is too much typing. This is prone to errors. and you can't really see what is good about classes and this type of coding. So I'm going to add some explanation here. You don't have to have all of it, but I'm just writing that we have managed to successfully create instances for a class called personnel and add attributes to them. But there is really no benefit to it if we were supposed to do everything like this. And one by one, it is also prone to error. And then so instead of an empty class, we can define our personnel class with more details. So I can just go and use the exact same structure that we used for defining the class before. I can go and say class personnel column, and I can actually go ahead and give it some documentation. This is a class defined to store information of the employee. And then I can actually go ahead and try giving it a little more content and make it more useful for me. So I'm going to go with def, double underline, init, double underline, and in parentheses, I'm going to add self. So comment. What is happening here? This init thing, it basically means that we are initializing the class and we are starting to construct in that class. So we can say for initializing the class. And that self that I have there in the parentheses, because I saw someone asked about it, that is more of a convention. You can use any other word that you want. But overall, it is strongly recommended to stick to it, to this well-known convention, and be consistent for the rest of your scripts. So let's say that first name, last name, and age are the attributes that I want to go with. I can go here, and after self, I will go with comma. I will say first, last, and age. Again, it is me who is defining what I want to call them. You can call them first name, last name, and age. But the important thing, the key thing, is that you need to be consistent with whatever you are doing. So first of all, the order is very important. So from now on, the Python will realize that the first value you give is first name, the second value you give is last name, and the third value you give is age. You cannot just go and interchange them and expect that because you are adding a number in the first position, Python is going to automatically realize that it's not name and it's age. That's not going to happen. So be consistent with how you are naming and putting your attributes in the parentheses. Then I can go ahead and say, I want to connect self and first. And in first, I want to put the value that I'm receiving at the beginning. So for example, the first name is going to be attributed to self as is. Similarly, for last, and similarly for age. So these are also known as instance variables. So we can say that we are setting our instance variables at this stage. Now, we were asked by the question, to generate email addresses for these employees based on their first name and their last name. So we want their first name.
You do something. Take one good look. Do I look like?
You have a question, Esteban?
Oh, my bad. I didn't know how my mic on.
Oh, it's okay. So first name dot last name @ DunderMifflinPaperCompany.com. So I can go ahead and say self.email will be
One, I don't. Yeah.
the string that I have for my first name plus a dot
Are we both?
plus.
Your name is Trevor.
Can you please mute your mics if you are not asking a question or anything? Thank you. Then my last name plus whatever we had in the question. So we can actually go here and copy this part. @ DunderMifflinPaperCompany.com.
I remember a lot of these posted.
And you will put that in quotes because that is the string that you want to put there. So, use the given format to generate email addresses based on first and last names. Okay. So once we're done with that, we can just go ahead and start creating instances.
Okay.
So the first instance that I want to create is for my employee 1. And yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't we add email to the init self first last age instance?
The reason that you do not put it up there is that because you are not receiving that, you are generating that.
Oh, okay.
So right now, if you notice, when I'm creating my first instance, employee _1, I'm going with personnel because that's the class that I want him to go to. And then I'm going to feed the 3 inputs of first name, last name, and age. So let's see what happens. The first one is going to be Michael. Then it's going to be Scott. Then I'm going to go with 43. So the same order that I have here. First, last, age. Michael, Scott, 43. That's what I meant when I said you have to make sure that you are being consistent with your orders. So same thing for employee 2. It's going to be personnel, Pam, Beasley, 24. Employee 3. Jim. Alpert. 26. These are the information that you have in the table. Employee 4 is Mr. Dwight. Root.
I have a question.
Sure.
For the assignment, do we need to print out all the names and emails or names and ages, I guess?
Well, depending on what is asked from you. For example, in exercise 1, you are asked to modify whatever we have in this example and calculate the year each employee was born. So the output that we want will be the year that they are born.
So do we need to make objects for each person and print it out?
That would be one way of doing that. The other way is to create a table and put them in the right format. That will be basically based on your call.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Dwight Schrute, and then employee number 5, one of my personal favorites, Creed Bratton, which is definitely not his real name, and then H. So here I'm creating 5 instances belonging to class personnel with these attributes. Again, the key is that when you are giving these, you have to be consistent with the way that your class is defined. So now let's go ahead and see if our if our email generator is working correctly. So I can go call my first instance and then go with .email, because that is something that should have been generated within our class. And actually, I'm going to do this for all 5 of them. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Invalid syntax. Let's see what's happening. Should be a column here, right? Yes. So if you were exactly typing whatever I had there, after definition under class personnel, we need a column after the parentheses. And then we are having an indent issue because these all should be under init. Cool. Yours says personnel takes no argument. Can you copy and paste it here? Yes, why not? Here you go.
What did you do to replace the invalid syntax to fix that?
Initially, I was forgetting to put a column right here after defining my my self first last age, and then you need to make sure that these 4 lines are all starting with your init and not here. So I have pasted what I have in the chat box. Hopefully that will solve your issues. So once you correctly define your personnel class and you define your instances, you can go ahead and print the email addresses, and you see that it is working as we wanted. So first name dot last name at dundermifflinpapercompany.com for all of them, and that's how it works. So at this point, we have done everything the question has asked for. But let's go a little further. So at this point, we have everything the question has asked for. Let's take it a little further. Let's ask our class to generate full name combinations for us. So I'm going to copy my personnel class, only the class, and paste it here again, as it was. I'm not changing anything from it. So Max and Jacob, are you using the same script that I pasted for you in the chat box? getting no answers, so I think you are trying. Oh, yes. What do you mean it takes no argument? Are you sure that you are consistent with your spellings? In my case, the first P is capital and the rest is lowercase. Jack says, I fixed mine by typing 2 underscores by init. Yes, it should be 2 underscores. This is not just 1, this is 2. But that should not be their issue because they copied and pasted my script. Got it. Okay. Are you all okay? Shall we proceed? It's the init. Good, got it. So apparently there are some issues with the init. These are 2 underscores, not 1, on both sides. Can you paste the first script in chat? What do you mean? This one? Yeah, sure. Good question. Why does 2 underscores make that much of a difference? Because that's how Python will understand what you're saying. Otherwise, it's just something else to it. It is kind of like what we do with our human languages. One word has a specific meaning the way it is said to you, and if it's not said in the right manner, you will not understand it. As an international student with many issues in my pronunciation of English words, I have had that issue in a lot of cases. I thought that I'm saying the same word, but my pronunciation was found to be too Persian, too British, too French in one case. So that kind of happens. You need to stick with the right formatting when you are creating and defining the stuff in Python. So,
wait, real quick, where do you come from then?
Come again?
Where do you come from then? Like
originally, I come from Iran, so too Persian was probably the right guess.
Okay. And then, wait. So you said 2 Persian, 2 British, 2 French. Like, so did you come from just Iran, or did you like move?
You know, I come from just Iran, and
Okay.
Part of our educational system teaches us to speak English in a British accent, so I can get that. Sometimes I overpronounce things and it comes out as British, but there is no French in anything. So I don't know why the guy took that as French, but it happens.
Well,
so,
your English is amazing, so.
Thank you very much. So probably if you just type init with 1 underscore, Python may think that you are being too French. Just to stick with 2 underscores. I copied the script, but it is still not running. I really don't know, because did you check the init? Did you check the inundation? Yeah. So I'm going to paste that part again for you, Dariel. And if that doesn't solve the problem, we can talk about it later after the lab. So we were going to add something to our class definition that would give us the full name combination, first name and last name. For this, I'm going to create, I'm going to add a method to my class. So right at my last line, I want to go and make sure that I'm starting where def is. And when you put a space after death. If it turns to purple, you're good. If not, you're missing some spaces or something. So I'm going to create and add a method to my class. Methods are very, very similar to functions, and we are building them within our classes. So let's go ahead and say full name of self column will be, let's say I have a specific format in mind, and that will be the first one as a string. First one, second one, then after the string, I'm going to say format, and in that format, I want the first name of that self, comma, the last name of that self. And that's it. So let's add comments and say what we're doing here. Let's define a method very similar to a function. And then the specific format that I have in mind. So what I want you to do is to pay close attention to the difference between what is happening here and what was happening here. So basically, in the first part, we were saying for our class, for each instance, we need 3 attributes. We need first name, we need last name, and we need age. And then we kind of connected or associated each attribute with the instance or self. In this one, we are actually defining a function. And that function is going to be applied on each instance. So once I define an instance, I can go ahead and run my full name method or function on that specific instance, and it will generate a combination of a specific format for me, and I'm defining that format here. So I want my first name space my last name. This is basically what is happening here. Now, let us go and see what is happening. Again, I want you to come up here and copy all these instances because I don't want you to type them again. Employee 1, Michael Scott, Pam Beasley, Jim Halpert, Dwight Schrute, and Creed Bratton. These are 5 instances that we are defining and creating for our class personnel. And once I do that, I can go ahead and say that I want to print the full name combination of my employee underline 4 dot full name and a blank parenthesis. The reason that it's blank is that I'm calling this function on an instance. This is one way of doing this. So let's run this and see if we have done everything right. So there is no errors, and this is the new output that we have at the bottom. Full name, first name, last name, space. That's exactly what we wanted. So while I can run this function or method like this, another way would be to go ahead and say from the personnel class, I want the full name method to be run on my employee underline 4. I'm actually gonna add a comment here and ask you to mind the difference between the 2 approaches. Okay. The output of both of them are the same, but it's just two different ways of calling the same thing. In the first one, I say, okay, from a specific instance that I've created, here it's EMP_4, I want you to go in and apply the full name method within the same class and just give me the output. In the second way, I'm asking my notebook, or I'm asking Python to go in my personnel class and apply the full name method on the instance that I'm putting in the parentheses. Whichever one you find more comfortable or clearer, that will be your call. But the output of both of them are the same. It's identical. What is the purpose of the curly braces? I think you're talking about this. Here, I'm defining the format. I'm saying I want one item, then a space, then another item. And in those items, I want my first name and last name. So kind of like a placeholder. So do we have any questions about this example? The example that we covered is done at this moment. It was kind of a long one, but I wanted to touch on a few things in it. So do you have any questions?
I'm having an attribute error. Personnel object has no attribute full name.
Did you define this?
I believe so.
Have you made sure that you have the column, you have the right to spelling and everything?
Yes, I'll send it in the text box.
Actually, let me, because someone has already asked for it, I'm going to copy the entire cell in the chat box, but it's a little too big, so it's not going to fit. I'm only going to paste the last part. You already have the previous ones. There you go.
Thanks.
It was still not complete. Weird. So for exercise 1, do we do self.birthyear equal 2020 minus self-age? That is the way that I want you to think. That is the right way of thinking about it. I will talk about that in a bit. On exercise 1, I can't combine the birth year and the names of the employees. Let me see if we have any questions on the example, and then I will briefly explain what you're supposed to do for exercise 1. So, Rocky, I think I was talking to you. Did that help you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see again what we have in exercise 1. Given that we are living in the creepy year of 2020, use the script from the previous example and modify the personnel class so that it can calculate the year each employee was born. So, you know where we are. We are in 2020. And you know how old each one of these guys, like how old they are in 2020. So basically what you need to do is you need to calculate the year that they were born by doing a simple abstraction. You can do that in a very similar fashion to what we did with the full name. So you can basically go in and create a method within your personnel class and ask that to do the computation for you, similar to what you did with the function in our last session. So I believe that should be like a piece of cake for you at this moment, because we have done exactly the same thing within a class, and you know how to do how to define functions that can do computations for you from the last session. So you should be able to tackle this very, very easily. So now, looking at the chat box, why do you want to combine the birth year and the names of the employees? And what do you mean by combine? Never mind. Okay, cool. Okay, that will be your exercise 1. For exercise 2, you are asked to write a class named car speed to calculate the speed in miles per hour of different brands of cars based on the information given in the table below. The formula to calculate the speed is also given below. Based on your output, which brand of car has the highest speed? So you know that a speed is equal to distance over time, and you have Ford, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche, Audi, and Jaguar, and you know how many miles they have gone in how much time. So similar to the example and the exercise that we covered, you have a table of information that you need to use to your benefit and to meet the objective. You have some notes here. Use duck strings to describe the purpose of the class, and then create an object for each car brand and display the output as shown below. So ultimately, when you're done with this exercise, this is what we are looking for. Ford underline speed, miles per hour. What is the speed for that? And then for Ferrari, for BMW, for all of them. And then for the last line, we want you to tell us that the car with the highest speed is which one. You can ask questions if you want. I will answer them to some degree. But this is, again, very similar to the example that we talked about. I actually built that exercise to prepare you for this. You have some names, you have some attributes, distance, time, and you want to do a computation within your class, and you want the output of that calculation. OD, okay, thank you very much. OD. I thought that had something to do with drugs.
Like Audi.
Audi, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Yes. You will ultimately produce an outcome or an output that looks like this. If you have any questions, shoot. If not, we will move to exercise 3. Okay. On exercise 3, you are asked to write a class named tax to calculate the state tax in dollars of employees at Texas Tech University based on their annual salary. The state tax is 16% if the annual salary is below $80,000 and 22% if the salary is more than $80,000. So you are basically dealing with one formula, which is telling you that your tax is equal to annual salary multiplied by sales tax, and then you have a condition that defines your state tax. So based on that condition, if the annual salary is below 80,000, the number is 16%, and if that number is above 80,000, the tax percentage is 22%. So something that Dr. Cleveland pointed out is that there is a mistake here, and he already showed you how to fix it. We want the first number to be 150,000, one space to make the formatting right, and this one, we want it to be 175,000, again, one space to make the formatting right. So you need to go in your table, double click, and fix those numbers. I can't really do that for you. But Bob makes 150,000, Mary makes 78,000, John makes 55,000, and Danny makes 175,000. So this is the table of information that you need. You still need to be careful with these notes. So use duck strings to describe the purpose of the class. Use if-else conditional statements within the method of the class to choose the relevant tax percentage based on the annual salary, and then create an object for employee and display the output as shown below. So at the end, we want this to be the outcome. So I think you already know that, and these notes have made it clear, but the only thing that you need to be careful about this one in comparison to exercise 2 is that it also has an if-else statement included in it. So it's not just one computation, it's an if-else computation format. If you look at the previous labs, you will know that. Exercise 3 already answered? What?
Yeah, in ours, it already has like the answer to code and everything.
No, that can't be right.
I mean, no, I quickly coded it.
Oh yeah, I see. And just magically it appeared on my screen as well?
Yeah.
So, I think this is probably a gift Dr. Cleveland wanted to give you for making it to the 4th week.
Hey, thanks, Doctor.
So yeah, it is there, and that's it. Okay, then you already have the grade on that. But if you have any questions, or if you don't know what is happening there, feel free to ask. So, any questions? Shall we move to the next one? I was kind of disappointed. That was a good example, but then you can look at it, so that's okay. So, Max, I don't know what that is. Is it something that I have also? Replacement index 1 out of range for positional arguments tuple. I would say that you're probably trying to read or do something to a tuple, and because it's a tuple, it's not going to allow you, but I'm not sure. So, let us move to lab 6 files. This is the second part of your lab. And we are going to move through it a little faster for some part, and then we have an example to deal with. So, you have another introduction box of your information. Please fill that with your info. Thank you very much for the credits. But go ahead with your own names, R numbers, hex codes, titles, and dates. So, in this text, there are multiple code boxes, code cells, and I want you to run each of them, and we will talk about what each cell is doing. So, the first one, we are basically running it to identify our local directory. When I run it, it will tell me home user, and the reason is that I am running this on CoCalc. And that is one of the things with CoCalc, that it only runs on its own local directory. You can, if you are running this on your own computer or on a Jupyter notebook or something like that, you will see the path in your own information system on your hard drive. Like you will see drive C, this folder, this folder, this folder there, and that is fine. So then we can run this, and it will tell us the contents in that folder. So if you see, for me it has lots of items, and actually I can show you what it is talking about. So if I click on files, you will see all these documents that I have in this list. What you are seeing in the notebook is just a representation of those. if you run this on a local folder on your computer, this will give you a list of everything you have in that folder. Then we are going to create a new file, something that didn't exist before. Something that you need to keep in mind, like the rationale behind this whole file manipulation business, is that imagine this can be like a scene from The Matrix. I don't know if you have watched that movie or not, but you need to kind of make the connection, do whatever you want to do, and then break the connection. That's how it works. And usually when you are making that connection, you need to already know what do you want to do. Like, do you want to create a new file? Do you want to read an existing file? Do you want to update an existing file? But the general idea is that make the connection, do whatever you want to do, and then break the connection. So here we want to go ahead and create a connection to a file, and then we are setting this to W because we are writing a file. That W stands for write. And then this file does not need to necessarily exist. We are going to create it ourselves. This is the name that you're giving to that file. This can be anything that you want. And then in the second line, you are creating an object and you're putting a string in it. Message in a bottle. This can be anything that you want. This is the object that you are defining first, and then you want to go ahead. Does someone have control over my screen? I think it was Kala. Guys, are you trying to control my screen? I'm not even sure that you're able to do that. No, it's okay. That was a little that was a little creepy, but it's all right. So we create an object, we put a string in that, and then in this one we are going to say on the external file that we called earlier, go ahead and write whatever is in my message object. So if my message is message in a bottle, it is going to write that on my external file that I initially created and called it my first file.txt. And then again, as I said, make sure that you break the connection when you are done with it. So if I've done this correctly, which apparently I did, you can go to the files or whatever folder you're working in, and you will see this, my first file, txt. And if you click on that, you will see message in a bottle is written there. So you're using that, you're using this box of commands to create a new file. And then we can go and get an updated version of our directory, and now you will see that my first file or whatever document that you created is now there. And this is one way of reading that specific file. So you go with exclamation point, space cat, space, the name of the text file. But W deletes everything and R appends from the last line. So basically, when you're going with W, if it really depends on if you have a file by that name in there or not. Here, I'm assuming that you do not have a file, and you're just creating this text file all by yourself. So by using this, if I run it, it will tell me what is written in that text file like this. And that is about creating and writing the new file. Then here is how we can read a file that already exists. So it's kind of similar to what you saw before, external file equals to open. my first file, the txt, but this time we are going with R because we are reading it. We are actually trying to read the content, then close the file connection, and then printing whatever was in that text file. So in this line here, I'm creating an object, and I'm calling it silly underline string, and I'm asking my Python to put all the content of that text file into that object. And then at the end, I am just simply printing that, which will give me. The cat is an actual command. Yes, it is. Sure enough, there will be a bash command cat to look at the contents of the file. It will work on your computer as well. So we've talked about writing, we've talked about reading, and this one here, we are updating the file. So the file can be there or not necessarily be there, but we are going to add something to a text file. So external file, there is no exercise 1 or 2. Exercise 1 or 2 and 3 was kind of mentioned in the previous notebook, but since 3 was already answered, this is your exercise 3 and 4. These two notebooks are connected. Yeah, and Carl also answered the question. So where were we? Okay, update the file. So open the name of the text file, and this time you're going with A for append. And you want to go ahead and write something on that file. This /n, \n, basically adds a new line. And that is something that will work in many other languages. I think it also works in Excel, but I'm not sure.
Works in Java as well.
Yeah, cool. So then you create an object and you call it what to add. So let's say this is a string that I want to add to my text file, and then I will just use the external file .write function to add that to my text file, and again something else, and it's the same procedure. You create an object with the string that you want to add, and then you add that object to your text file. Here we are actually, yeah, go ahead.
For my example read from an execution file, it gives me an error. No such file or directory.
Did you create this file in your directory?
Did I have to create it by raw, or is it supposed to already be created?
No. Basically, what we have done in this notebook is that we first created this my first file.txt, and then in the next step we are reading that. But if you do not have that file in your directory, it will not be able to read that. You know what I mean?
Oh, there we go. I just run it. I think I skipped over it and didn't run it.
So now it's working?
Yeah,
cool.
It worked.
So then let's say that I want to add a list of numbers to my text file. For what to add object, I'm going with this command. If you spend enough time, it is all explained very well right below, but I'm going to briefly tell you what is happening. Basically, by doing this, I'm asking Python to print and add this list of numbers to my text file and put a comma right in the middle of them. So we are using the map function and these REPR. How both of these work is explained right below. I'm running out of time, so I want to talk about the example we have. And that's all about updating the file. So basically, you first bring it in and you use A, and then you can add as many lines or strings as you want to that text file. Then the last part, the kind of dangerous part, is about deleting the file. There are two ways to do that, either through SYS package or OS package. Both of them will do the same thing, and they're going to delete the text file that you ask for. be extremely careful when doing this because it's going to delete your file. And you don't want that to happen to something that you want to keep. So, example. For this example, I've asked you to create a text file and name it my favorite quotation. Then I want you to go ahead and write your favorite quotation in the file, and then read that file, and then add this string to it in a new line, which is, and that's something I wish I had say, and then show the final outcome. I personally like this because it will show me something about you. So I'm going to be reading this when I'm grading your lab assignments. Give me some cool quotations because I love them. So let me show you how I did it. Here is my script. So, no, not this one. So, let me tell you what I'm doing. Initially, because this file is being created by me, I'm going to external file equal open my favorite quotation.txt, and I'm going with W because I want to write. Then I'm creating an object called my quotation, and that is a string. This is one of my all-time favorites from Pulp Fiction. This is a verse that Jules reads out to whoever he wants to kill, and then it eventually converts him in a way. This can be any string that you have in mind. I'm not seeing my chat box. Okay. Yes, exactly, Ezekiel 25:17. Then this can be your choice, your quotation. This is what I like to read. And when you create that object, you are going to use the external file.write command to write that string in your text file, and you are going to close the file connection. Then, for basically the third step, you want to read the file. So you can use the cat function or cat command to go ahead and read your created text file. And on the fourth step, we want you to add a string with a new line. So you will go ahead, open the text file with A because you want to update it. Then you're going to write \n to add a new line. And then you're creating a what to add object, and this string is going to be stored in that. So, and that's something I wish I had said, exactly the same way as the question asked. Then you are going to write that on your text file, and again, you are going to close the connection. And for the last steps, because you want to show the final outcome, you are going to, what happened? What? Yes, you're going to run the cat again, so you will get a printout of the content of your text, which for me is the quotation, and then at the end, and that's something I wish I had said. This is what I had prepared you for the example. For exercise 3, you are asked to read and print the contents of the text file named readingfile.txt. You have that file here in the directory that you initially downloaded everything from. So I think you already have that in your CoCalc. That is okay. So you're going to read and print contents from that. It is written again that you will have to download the file and then upload it to CoCalc. And that's it. That will be your exercise 3. Easy peasy. And then for exercise 4, you're going to append the text that is given below to the file name reading file.txt. So here is a text given to you, you are going to basically update your reading file at txt and add this to it. And that's it. It is shamefully easy. So basically everything that you do in this example is asked in exercise 3 and 4. You have a question on exercise? Okay, actually this is 10:43, and I think we have almost 6 minutes. So I'm gonna answer questions for 4 minutes and then pass it to Dr. Cleveland to hang up the meeting. So Kyle, let me know what is your question.
So looking at it, like I made code for it, and then for some reason when it outputs, it's giving me the same one for both exercise 3 and 4. It's like for some reason it's outputting the cat command in exercise 3.
So you do not have the cat command in exercise 3? You don't want it to be print out?
No, so here, let me pull it up. Let me read out what it's showing right now.
Okay.
Okay, so 1 second. Sorry, I'm working on this tiny laptop.
That's okay.
So the output is, it gives me like the basic reading, but then it has the appended I guess sentence or whatever several times underneath the output, and I don't know if that's normal or.
Well, actually, if you just open that reading file,
okay,
it already has 4 of those sentences at the end.
Oh, okay, so that's why it's doing that.
Yeah, that's how it comes, and you will just need to take this and add 1 more to it.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
Not really, not yet, I guess.
Okay, cool. So, Dr. Cleveland, are you there?
I am.
I think we are ready to hand the session back to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and make you host again.
Okay. I will restart my video.
There we go.
And anyway, good day, everybody. That was a pretty good session. Classes are a hard concept to wrap your brain around, so don't beat yourself up if it's not obvious, because it's not obvious. Files are much more straightforward and fortunately more important. So if you have to get good at one of the two, files is the thing to get good at, and classes you'll pick up over time. I'm going to hang up now because I have another class in a few minutes. But Farang has office hours, which he's announced. There's tutoring available. Actually, this Friday, you could do some online tutoring if you want to make the other TAs in the team mad at me and Farang, because we're exposing you in a slightly different way than the other groups. Not more, just different.
You're the cooler ones.
Yeah, we're the cool ones. And with that, I wish you all a good afternoon and a great weekend. And try to stay warm. The 50-degree change in temperature has been quite a shock. And I will see you all later. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Take care. Be safe.